Hello everyone, Dave here again in the shop. And as a follow-up in the last video where we had made the PLA parts and then the PETG parts, again, a friend said, hey, use PETG. It's going to be a lot stronger, better for building up anything that's going to take a load. So what we want to do is figure out how to measure this. So I've been thinking through that. And basically the idea is I need a load scale. I need something that can measure, how much pull that we can put on the part until it fails, till it breaks. So the idea is we're going to use a load cell. So this I bought off Amazon. It's a 200 kilogram rated load cell. To hook that up, then I'm going to need some sort of a little controller. So I'm going to use an Arduino to be the logic to run that load cell and take measurements from it. I'll add a LCD display to it so I can read the results on it. It does require a little interface board, so there's a little HX711 board, has a 711 chip on it that I'll use to interface between the load cell and the Arduino. And of course, there's a little bit of wiring that it'll take to put all that together. So that's my next step, is let's figure out how to create this measuring device that we'll use, and then we'll use that to stress test out the parts, and we'll find out, what happens. PLA, PETG, which one's best. So that's it. The load cell that we're using, this can measure both in compression, but it also can measure tension. So what we're going to do is, I found these metric eye bolts, or eyes that will screw into it. They're supposed to. There we go. So we'll screw one into each side. All right, that gets us set up so that we can then do a tension measurement off of this device. Now, the board is a HX711 board. That's an interface board. It's an analog to digital converter. So that's what we need to be able to interface from this analog scale to the Arduino. So a little bit of soldering to connect the wires. There's 4 wires that come off of the load cell that have to be connected up, and then 4 more wires that'll go from the board over to the Arduino. Now, there's lots of examples on the internet of how to use load cells. There's all kinds of configurations, different sizes, shapes, and form factors of load cells. And there's a lot of information on how to hook all of that up. So what I'm going to do in this video is just show you kind of my end result. What I did was take a piece of plywood. I've hot glued down my different boards. So I've got my Arduino glued down, I've got my LCD panel glued down, and I've got my HX711 amplifier, A to D converter amplifier board. And you can see the wiring that I've done. I've got my load cell wiring coming in with its 4 connections into the amplifier board, and then my 4 wires that come off and go to the Arduino to be able to get that measurement off the sensor and into the board. Then to display it, what I've done is I've used a little 4-line LCD panel. This particular panel has the serial backpack board on it to make it very easy to interface in. So literally the Arduino is going to talk across a serial port to drive the display onto the board. I've also added a momentary push button on here. I think you can see that. Again, just glued down there. There's a resistor in there. Again, there's plenty of documentation on how to use the switches. Fortunately for me, I've done a number of different scale projects, benchtop laboratory scales that I've used in work. And so what I was able to do is just repurpose some code. I'll be making a few little modifications to the code to set it up for this particular test. But it's pretty straightforward. It's a pretty simple build as far as Arduino builds go. So I'll hit the computer, do a little bit of coding, download that in, run a few tests, and get the scale ready to go for doing the testing. All right, we've made a few modifications to our software. I think we've got in there what we need. Now what we're going to do is compile our Arduino code. And it looks like that worked fine. Now it's going to upload that to the Arduino board. And then we'll see it reset. It did. And now the new code is running. Looks like it's displaying 00, so everything is good. Let's grab the load cell and just kind of pull on it here. Yeah, everything's reading, so that looks good. All right, it's time to do a little bit of testing. Make sure this is working correctly. We've got our load cell hung from a steel wrap here in the shop. And then here's our project board and display, everything's running. This little push button, what I did was set that up to reset the max load. So press the button, everything's zeroed out. Now what we can do is just put a little bit of pull on this, and it should be measuring it out. And of course, with my hand back off, it's at 0, and the max load was 44.99 grams. So, and then press reset, and it should go back to 0, and it does. So all of that looks good, and ready for the next part of the test. So we need something as a test weight. So I've got this adjustable wrench. Let's turn on our scale. And it's at 0. Let's see what my adjustable wrench weighs. 509 grams. All right, that should be a good starting weight to test with. All right, we've connected up our wrench to the load cell, and let's see what we're getting measurement-wise. About 505 grams, so that's good enough for our testing. I don't know exactly what the plus or minus accuracy is of the scale, but I'm guessing it's between 5 and 10 grams. And just for fun, to have something a little bit heavier to take a look at from a test, I've got this small anvil. And let's see, okay, 6,116 grams roughly. Now the next problem is, how do we connect this? How do we measure this? I don't think that's a very good way of doing it. So we'll figure out some mechanism, some method, some sort of a fixture to be able to properly connect this up to the load cell so that we can then load test it. All right, so we've got our scale ready to go. Now the next piece is to figure out some way to test this. So this little bracket is designed to go onto this square tubing and then be able to hold things. So we'll want to test it in that configuration. So in the next video, we'll work on a solution. We got a couple of ideas to try, and we'll work on a solution to be able to mount this to the scale, and then how we load it up and get our measurements. So thanks for joining me in the shop, and we'll see you next time as we move this project along.